welcome a best friend of ours, a former teammate, flown over specially for this. Means the world to Alan and Catherine to have him here. Please welcome Phil Mulryan.
Good evening, everybody. Just following on from Ross, I would like to take this opportunity once again to thank Annabelle and Joe, Catherine's beautiful bridesmaids, for their help in assisting Catherine over the last couple of days. I'm sure you'd all agree that their beauty is only eclipsed by Catherine herself. It was a very beautiful and moving ceremony, but one thing that did strike me was that it was probably the only wedding that I've been to that, for the photographs, the groom was pouting more than the wife. Seriously, I'm sure Ross will agree with me that over the last couple of months there's been two dominant emotions that's accompanied preparing a best man speech. On the one hand, there's the worry and anxiety of what you're going to say and how you're going to come across. But at the same time, you're very conscious of the great privilege it is to be asked to be best man. And thank you very much for it, Alan. It really struck me in the last few weeks, especially coming up to this day, of what a privilege it was. I first met Alan in the summer of 2005. I had just joined Cardiff City after spending 6 very happy years at what I would regard as the biggest club in East Anglia, Norwich City, of course. After a playoff final and promotion to the Premier League, it looked like the glory days were coming back to Norwich. So you can imagine my delight when my best friend phones me to tell me that he's signing for Norwich City. But that joy and delight was short-lived, as after only spending 6 weeks at Norwich, Alan was to play a pivotal role in the relegation of my beloved club to League One. But all was not lost, because soon after he left, they won back-to-back promotions. Arriving at Cardiff City, I was looking forward to a new start with some fresh surroundings after a year dogged with injuries, and very much looking forward to meeting some new friends and new people. And pretty quickly I became aware of how much I was going to enjoy my new city, when only on the first night after arriving, I was introduced to Alan, who informed me by way of introduction to the team that there was a late night trip to the local library planned. And anybody who knew me then would know that I would never have turned down such an offer. Although this has all changed, of course, definitely. But moving into the early hours of Sunday morning after a late night at the library, Alan then invited me to join him back at his house in Cathedral Road. And I'm sure there's people here from Cardiff that will tell you that Alan's house in Cathedral Road was the place to be in Cardiff. Anybody who was anybody was in that house, and there was even an occasion when Al would come home and find his house full with people but not even know it. He was legendary as a host. But if you can picture the scene, it will give you an idea of how my nights out with Alan would go from that night forward. After introducing me to everyone as the new guy in town, I could see Alan getting restless at me being the centre of attention. The next move will be all too familiar to anybody who's been on a night out with him. Like David Brent from The Office, after seeing the tension being completely on me, Alan would then instruct somebody to go and get his guitar. And then in an instant, after enjoying my brief moment in the spotlight, the whole room would turn in anticipation, waiting for Al's list of extensive hits, which would include songs from such groups as the Stereophonics, and maybe a little bit later on, some more Stereophonics. The reason why I bring this to your attention is because even tonight, when all attention should be on his beautiful bride, I wouldn't be surprised if the guitar was called for. In all seriousness, Al, that year in Cardiff wasn't going to turn out to be the most fruitful for either of us career-wise, but I was very well aware that I'd met someone very special and I met a friend for life. It was my experience in football up to that point that close lasting friendships were very much a rarity in the football world. And looking around here today at the amount of different people here from different walks of life is testament to your character and to just how much of an impression you've made on us all. After that year in Cardiff, Alan was then transferred to Ipswich, and unbeknown to myself, I was coming to the end of my football career, which for any ex-players here will tell you was a very daunting prospect. It was a time of great uncertainty, and I'll be forever grateful, Al, for your friendship at that very tough time in my life. I remember visiting Alan many times in Dedham and being very struck at how content and happy he was there. But it wasn't a surprise to me because I instantly fell in love with the place myself and decided that I would stay in Alan's house as a squatter for 4 months. I remember your generosity and patience at that very tough time for me. And I know I wasn't the easiest person to be around and to live with at that time. The constant cleaning up around me would have tested the patience of a saint. The family atmosphere for me in Dedham was very unique in my experience. And I know how grateful Alan was and is to the Booth family, who welcomed him into the village and took him to their family as one of their own. So thank you very much for that on behalf of Alan and myself. At this point, I would like to turn to Catherine and thank you for having the patience to endure all those times when, at the drop of a hat, I would come over and intrude into your blossoming relationship. I knew from very early on that I had met someone very special, and I was very grateful for that, for the way you allowed me to come into your life in such an important time for both of you. Your unselfish, kind and gentle nature always made a great impression on me. And although I'm here to talk about Alan, I must say he's found a rare jewel in you. Finally, Al, what can I say? I thank God for our friendship. I truly believe that I've received much more from it than I've given. I know for many years you've been searching for that person to spend your life with, and I'm so happy that you've found that person in Catherine. So on behalf of everyone, I pray that your marriage will be a blessed and very happy one. So if you could all join me, could you reach your glasses?
Alan and Catherine. Yes.